be, do you think?
Well, every great champion's career has to taper off and end somewhere. You know, he's been so dominant in the sport until now. He can't go on winning and producing incredible times forever. I'm not saying if he gets beaten today that will be it for him, far from it. But, you know, eventually, and there's just so much depth in the men's marathon, youngsters like 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝙗 coming through, and even relatively unknown athletes. You know, we've got a handful here, but there are hundreds, thousands of East African athletes who are world class. Only a handful can ever race in these big races, but as soon as a newcomer comes through, you know, they put pressure on the big guys.
I thought I just detected a slight grimace there, Mara, whilst you were talking. I'm not sure we would have necessarily expected Kipchoge to be happy towards the back of that group. Alongside, yes, and biding his time, possibly, but ELIUD KIPCHOGE, the world record holder, has allowed a few metres to grow. And I'm not sure about you, but I can't quite think of a solid reason why he'd be doing that consciously, unless he was struggling.
Yeah, I agree. Surprising that. There's a definite gap. It's small, but there's a definite gap. If he were intending to win this race, he would certainly not be doing this. So Kipchoge looks like he could possibly be in trouble.
He hasn't lost a race since he finished second to Wilson Kipsang when he broke the world record back in Berlin in 2013. He has been the model of consistency. He is arguably the greatest marathon runner in history. Yes, okay, he is yet to successfully for the first time in his marathon career is running into problems. It is the only reason he would be allowing a gap like this to grow. It is probably the only reason you would think why he would be running 3 to 4 minutes or 2 to 3 minutes slower than we've seen from him in any race other than the Olympic marathon, which was a totally different scenario. Kipchoge has got to find something here. I think possibly we may have seen and we may be witnessing his first moment of weakness as a marathon runner. Would you agree, Mark Yamauchi?
Absolutely. The worst he's ever done in a marathon is second, and he's won every other race. So this is not something Kipchoge, not a position Kipchoge will want to be in. I'm just wondering, so Tola now dropped off that group. So real injection of pace, I think, is going on. We'll bring you the latest mile split as soon as we have it. Kipruto also dropped, so I think they're really pushing the pace at the front of that group. I mean, Kipchoge looks okay. He doesn't look like he's suffering that much, but just... it's a bit puzzling that he hasn't got a grimace on his face.
I think there is, occasionally, there has been a tiny grimace. You would argue this, Mara. It would be one thing to be right there with the group and maybe get out-sprinted by somebody 5 or 6 years younger in an eyeballs-out burst to the line. But if Kipchoge ends up running something like 206 or 207, for somebody who has made 202 and 203 and 204 his metronomic norm, there must be a problem for him today. There must surely, there must be an injury, there must be something that he was gracious enough not to talk about in advance of the race, to preempt an excuse. There's something not quite working for Kipchoge today, and we might find out after the race.
I don't know about an injury. I mean, he didn't say anything about an injury, he's appeared to be perfectly comfortable. You know, there's no indication of something going wrong. That last mile split, 4:46 for the leaders. I'm struggling to understand what's happening with Kipchoge, because he doesn't look like he's really struggling. At this stage of a race, if you're intending to win, you work 110% not to get dropped by the lead group. But he looked like he was coasting, and yet he got dropped. So not quite sure what's happening for Kipchoge there, but the lead men must very soon be approaching 1 lap to go.
Yes, we've just seen Peter Herzog, by the way, the Austrian, just ahead of Connor and Mellor. This is the battle for the British title. Connor making his debut, as Mara indicated. He ran just inside 61 minutes for a half marathon PB recently. Mellor's already got the qualification time with that excellent performance in Seville, finishing 22nd, but just outside 2:10. So there's a real duel going to go on between the two Britons wearing identical arm warmers. Meanwhile, the key piece of information we need to know at the front is whether ELIUD KIPCHOGE has managed to mount some kind of comeback on the lead group. But I agree with you, Mara, there isn't a valid reason why
Kipchoge's world, that never has appeared until now. I mean, that gap is too big, I would say, for Kipchoge too. He was catching Tola a moment ago, but I don't see how he can make up that group now.
No, and this means, sorry Mara, this now means what a massive opportunity. Chris Thompson coming up there to be lapped. He's having a tough day alongside 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗, but what an opportunity for one of these young men in this group now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking all about Kipchoge being beat, but you know, these guys at the front, they've really taken the race to him. Still 5 in that lead group. I think we may yet get a sprint finish. They've taken it in turns doing the heavy lifting at the front. You know, let's not take away, Kipchoge is being beaten, but let's not take it away from these 5 men at the front. Kipchumba, for me, has been looking very comfortable throughout.
Yes, Kipchumba, if you're just joining us, he's the tall figure at the back of the group. There's ELIUD KIPCHOGE. His reign as London Marathon champion is about to come to an end. So ELIUD KIPCHOGE is not going to become a 5-time London Marathon champion this year. What a race we've got now. 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗 with the lime headband. He was second behind Kipchoge 2 years ago. 𝙒𝙖𝙗𝙗𝙗, there's the battle for the British title. Johnny Mellor now coming past Connor.
So these two having an absolute blinder. Johnny Mellor, coached by Steve Vernon, lives up in the Peak District, so plenty of hills, but both these athletes, Connor doing his debut today, Johnny Mellor already with the qualification time, but both of them looking very strong in these final stages.
They'll be unaware of the drama unfolding up ahead. It's Kitata with the lime headband. Then you've got 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝙗𝙗, the 10th fastest in history, with the lime green vest. 1:59.19 at 40k. But this is not about times today. This is about a story of one man's quest for greatness that has taken him to the top, but has seen him today fall short of his own high standards. There'll be shockwaves going through Kenyan distance running at the moment. I mentioned all those people who'll be watching in 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝙗. Well, now they'll be hoping that Kipchumba can fly the flag for Kenya. This great rivalry unfolding once again between two beautiful, proud nations separated by from Kenya. Who has got the sprint fit? Who has got the belief? Maybe, Mara, if you had to pick a favourite at the moment, 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝙗 has got a fantastic turn of speed. We see some fantastic distance races in India every year, and 𝙒𝙗𝙗𝙗 ran 59:11 in the brilliant Delhi half marathon way back in 2014. It's an indication that he's got good speed in his legs. He was just outside the top 10 in the 10,000 metres 5 years ago in Beijing, and he's been right on the leader's shoulders all the way through. He would love to upgrade his second place finish from last year to glory and number one this year. Maybe this is destined to be 𝙏𝙗𝙖𝙣𝙠 day. If it is, he's putting himself in exactly the right position to strike.
Absolutely. He's run a really smart race, letting others do the hard work at the front, just tucking in there. You know, second here last year, second in Doha. Would be great to see him on top of the podium. But I think of these four, I think he and Kipchumba look the most comfortable to me. I think 𝙒𝙖𝙩𝙘𝙗 is the figure we just saw, having just got dropped from that group. Yeah, I think that is 𝙒𝙖𝙩𝙘𝙗 just gone through the camera there.
Sorry, Mark.
This reminds me of Daniel Wanjiru winning back in 2016, I think it was. Relative unknown, came from behind and won, and we it was a bit of a surprise.